Good evening, everybody. My name is Lori Orestano James. I'm the president of the Monticello Central School District Board of Education. I'd like to welcome you to our public meeting portion of tonight's meeting. I would just like to make clear that everyone understands that Mrs. Doherty is on phone, coming to us by phone, and tonight we do not have Ms. Holmes and Mrs. Galligan-Weiner are not able to be with us this evening. With that said, I also want to remind everybody that this is being recorded, as well as if you have any comments that you'd like to make during public comment, we do have a way for you to be able to communicate, and that is by sending an email to our board clerk, Janet Montez, and you can send that email to her at jmontes, JMONTES, at k12mcsd.net. Again, that's JMONTES at k12mcsd.net. So if you have anything that you would like to share with the board during public session, and we will read that into the minutes. With that said, I'd like to entertain a motion to come out of executive session made by Mr. Groden, seconded by Ms. Greco. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? So ordered. Moving on, please rise for the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'd like to remind everybody to please silence the electronic devices that have nothing to do with this meeting. I figured a better way to say it. Moving on with regard to that, I will entertain a motion to move the agenda to the table made by Mr. Groden, seconded by Mrs. Sharoff. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? So ordered. Moving on from there, Dr. Evans, any additions, deletions, or corrections to the agenda?
Yes, I have one, Madam President, and that is Ms. Montez, could you please delete item T15?
Thank you very much. Moving forward to that, can I have a motion to adopt the agenda as amended, made by Ms. Greco, seconded by Ms. Jersey. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? So ordered. We do not have a student board member yet and board awards. So moving on from, going back, I'm sorry, approval of the minutes from September 3rd. Motion to accept the minutes. Mr. Crumley, seconded by Mr. Groden. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? So ordered. Turning this over to, I'm assuming Ms. Taylor, I'm turning this over to you for the summer 2020 remote credit recovery presentation.
Actually, Rachel and Robin are going to start us off.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Superintendent Evans, Board President, Board Trustees, and community members. Robin Boardman and I will present the Monticello High School's first remote credit recovery summer program. Can you go to the next slide, please? The goal was for students to gain credits by completing coursework remotely through Right Reasons. These were the courses offered.
This slide contains the expenses for summer school. They've already been adjusted slightly based on the September 15th payroll. So for personnel expenses, we are at $51,979.01, plus the Right Reason technology software. So the total expenses for summer school are $76,829.01.
So here what we have for you is a comparison of last year's summer program compared with this year's. We had 132 students enroll. 10 students completely dropped out for various reasons. Internet issues are things like they just didn't engage in the program for whatever reason. students enrolled in 257 courses in total and earned 67% of those were passed successfully. We had 8 potential graduates. 7 of them successfully completed their graduation requirements. So it was an 87.5 graduation rate for the summer. We had 107 students qualify for potentially qualify for Regents waivers. Of those, 51% earned Regents waivers in the summer. I gathered some feedback for the students and the teachers to see what it was like, what they liked and what they didn't about the remote program. Teachers did like the overall program. They did think that the flexibility allowed more access for students. Students were able to complete credits even though they had to work full time. We had a lot of families, as you know, face a lot of hardships over the summer. So they were able to assist, the students were able to help out in their families as well as recover some of their credits from the school year. They said that they would like to utilize something like this in the future. However, in a more hybrid format where students could come in sometimes, or if they had internet connectivity issues, they could come into the building and take the classes, but they did ask for more professional development. It was a little more challenging than we thought to set up the program, but once it got set up and got running, it ran pretty smoothly. The other thing that they thought about was perhaps a different attendance policy. With that flexibility came several students finishing their whole program in the last, say, 10 days of the program. So we would have liked a different attendance policy in the end. Again, the students really liked the flexibility because they were able to work. They like the ability to show mastery for credit. So based on some of the language in the Regents waivers, we were allowed to credit recovery through a mastery test, whereas normally they have to recover standard by standard. So the students liked that aspect of it. However, they did ask for more time in person with their teachers. So they too liked the idea of perhaps a hybrid model or more live instruction. Going forward, please. Thank you. And moving forward in our planning for next summer, our timeline begins in November. We, as a team, agreed that we'd like to adjust our timeline a little bit. So our setup and it's all in place really before school is out. Oftentimes we find ourselves reaching back for students in that last week before summer school starts. And what we'd like to do is have a better understanding of how many students would qualify, because it's easier to remove them from the program than add a lot more at the last minute. We also this year did online registration. It went great. It was much easier to enroll the students. It was much easier to place them into the student management system. So we're definitely looking to refine that process for next year, and we feel that registration will go 1,000 times more smoothly. And that's really it in a nutshell.
So questions from the board? Thank you very much for that presentation, ladies. We appreciate you giving us the update. Questions from any of the board members? I have a few, but I'll start first with board members. Ms. Jersey.
What grades were offered the summer recovery program?
9 through 12.
And what did they have to do to get the Regents waiver?
They just had to pass the course.
That was because of the COVID. They didn't offer the Regents exams, so they gave waivers. So that's just hopefully a one-year shot. We don't know, but you know. Okay, anybody else with questions? Okay, yes, Mr. Crumley.
I assume the hybrid model had a lot to do with the percentage of credits earned.
Yes, they felt that the students felt that they would have been more successful if they were able to have more live instruction. So what we did was we ran the courses through Right Reasons because it was completely set up through there. And then the teachers offered office hours. About halfway through the program, we realized that wasn't being as successful as we wanted. So teachers were picking and choosing and inviting students to lessons, but it was almost too late to change the precedent to require them to be there. So it was more offered as like, you know, you're struggling with algebraic equations, so I'm going to do a lesson on that today. I think you should come, rather than a requirement, because like I said, it was pretty far into the program before we received that feedback.
Which would relate back to the teachers to rework the attendance issues.
Exactly.
Things of that nature and whatnot,
Yep.
whatever. Thank you.
So
You're welcome.
if I can dovetail to Mr. Crumley's question, so for this summer, did the state waive the attendance requirements for credit to be offered during a summer school program?
Yes, they waived it
Okay.
because they couldn't be in person.
Okay, so when we're talking about next year, we don't really know, because if they put back the hours that they have to go, you don't have a choice.
Right.
So some students went, oh, well, I don't have to be there because the state says I don't need to be there to get the credit. So, and therefore they're not going to be successful, because, you know, education is, you got to be in it to win it, you know,
Yep.
you have to be there.
Yep.
So, okay, so that answers my attendance policy, because the attendance policy is not set by the board. The attendance for summer school is set by the amount of hours that they must get to achieve credit by the state for summer school programs. So I just wanted to make sure that people understood that, that, you know, a board can set an attendance policy that is more stringent than what the state does, but they have to go at least at minimum of what the state does. So I wanted to make sure that that was good. And I do just wanted, this isn't a question, I just wanted to ask whoever is the owner of this slideshow, if you could please update the slide with regard to the expenses, because that isn't public, and send that to Janet so she can re-upload the whole program with that corrected, so we can have the correct version out there to the public. That would be great. Any other questions around summer school? Okay, thank you, ladies. We appreciate you being here to present to us. We are grateful for the work that you were able to do in this crazy time. And trust me, I spent 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years as summer school principal in this district. I know. I get it. Thank you for all of the work that you've done. We appreciate it. And you are welcome to stay on if you choose to do so, but you are more than welcome also to sign off and go to public session if you would prefer, so that you can, you know, I don't know, get into PJs, because tomorrow's an early day. So, all right, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Moving on from there, Mr. Crumley.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as a group, F1 through M2.
Do I have a second on that? Made by Mr. Groden. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? So ordered. Board round table. Does anybody have anything that they would like to share? Helen, do you want to share that you were at the audit committee today?
The audit committee was rescheduled till October 1st, so no, I do not.
Okay, never mind. I obviously didn't see that change in my calendar because I knew I couldn't make the meeting today. All right, thank you. Moving on from there, anybody else have anything they want to share? Mr. Groden?
I would like to thank the faculty, staff, grounds, custodial staff, everybody for doing their best in these difficult times to pull together, and with classrooms being moved and instead of being in the 200 wing, they're in the gym. It's just a daunting experience, but people haven't quit, and that's just Monty pride in action. So thank you, everybody. It's really appreciated from the board, from me.
Thank you, Mr. Crumley.
I 100% agree with Mr. Groden, so thank you, everybody. And also, I participated for quite a while in the tutorial session that was last evening for the online learning program that we're doing. My daughter proved to be much the teacher in educating me and her mother in some of the intricacies of it. it did seem like they concentrated a lot on the chat and communication part of the program rather than actually for parents finding what my child needs to do. It's nice to know who they're talking to and how they can do it, but it is also important for us to come home and be able to actually find their assignments and make sure they're doing them rather than seeing an email 2 weeks from now that, stuff didn't get handed in. So it was semi-helpful, but I did learn quite a bit from my oldest daughter, who kind of, I guess that's the way of the world, right? Just go to the kid and figure out how to work your phone. But besides that, not really too much else. Thank you.
Anybody else on roundtable? Okay, so I also was on the online training last night and I thought it was very good. I did hear some feedback. So this is just to take back with regard to the programming, that there were people who could not sign on, so to please reoffer it. And although it was recorded, that ability to generate more conversation, so either to reoffer it and to, even as we start to see, would we consider doing every few weeks another sort of update like that to help parents who are trying to help at home. So that it was very appreciated, and I think they'd like to see a little more of that communication. So if there's a way to design something like that. So thank you, Dr. Ola Marks, for spearheading on that end of it. And so it was well received by people who were listening. And, as they become more computer literate in the programs that we're using in the platforms, there'll be more questions. So it gives them that opportunity. I was also very, very proud to welcome faculty, staff, and administration back on opening day for them on October 9th. It seems like so long ago. And I had an opportunity to officially introduce and welcome Dr. Evans to the entire school community at that time. I told you I have an old phone. I can't silence it. There's no way of silencing one of these. So with that said, I did want to make sure that I shared with you the key phrase. I welcomed everybody on behalf of the board, and I appreciate the feedback that I received by many staff members, and Dr. Evans also, reached out to me and faculty members to thank me for the words on behalf of the board. But I do want to share with everybody who's listening, the one thing that I hear that people related to was I made clear that we are in a situation that's a struggle. We all are. Parents are, teachers are, students are, administrators, the staff, those who are cleaning our buildings, the bus drivers, the teachers, anybody who's affiliated with a school district. These are difficult times. So the message that I delivered as being a cancer survivor, as I said, I have to give you the mantra of being a cancer survivor. And the mantra of that is that we have to do this one day, 1 hour, 1 minute, 1 second, 1 breath at a time. The board is in that same scenario. We are hearing things changing, moving, going, numbers are up, numbers are down. But we have great leadership, and we are going to do what is in the best interest of students as long as we've got that breath in us. So I just wanted to bring to the board that was a message that I shared on your behalf, and wanted people to be aware of that. I attended a NISMA ad hoc committee meeting, so you know that I'm the state chairperson for that stuff. So I was able to attend that, and it's interesting again to see what other districts are doing across the state, because although it's a NISMA thing for School Music Association, we're discussing what other school districts are doing. Many are on the hybrid model, and a number have gone all remote. And there's a lot of concern on how do you deliver this and how do we do this fiscally responsible, because people were under the impression that schools were closed because of COVID. Schools were never closed. School buildings were open the entire time. We just could not have children in the buildings. We had staff working in the buildings. We had contractors. Schools were open, and things were still happening, and teachers were still teaching. And teachers teach, even if it's remote, they are teaching, they are building lessons. And the support staff is helping them to do those lessons, and the administration is helping them to do those lessons. We do need an extra leg from the parents, there's no doubt about that. But the lessons are still coming, and we remind everybody that communication is really important in making sure that everybody is not frustrated, even though there will be times of frustration, and we know that. I have to grab one thing because I have to model it. So I'm back. It took me 30 seconds. Look at that. So I do want to say thank you for the lovely mask that I received today from RJK in the mail. So I have a mask. I don't need it now. I'm going to demask. But I thank Mrs. Knowlton for making sure that all the board members are receiving this mask. If you did not get it, it's on its way. She sent one to all the board members to thank us. So we thank you publicly, and we will be proud and honored to wear those as we go out to represent the schools and our community. And I also would like to take this opportunity to say a big thank you to Mrs. Knowlton along with Mrs. Kozacek. I saw a picture on Facebook yesterday in which you were painting over greater than the average in the hallways. So Miss Jersey is very excited about that, but we're very pleased that the amount of changeover in the physical space of that building to welcome students in and really get those new mantras going, and watching that, knowing that the buildings and grounds are going crazy as well, that the two of you just donned your painter's clothes and got some paint and a roller, and you were going right over that so that it's ready for the next piece of artistry to go up in the building. So we thank you very, very much for that. So that is my information on board roundtable. Anybody else, in case I triggered something? Mr. Crumley.
To kind of dovetail into one of your first comments, if we did have more training, if the instructor tutorial was on, all our kids have iPads. The tutorial was done on a PC format. So the formats were a little bit different. So if parents were at home actually on their child's device, kind of taking the tutorial, it's just a little bit different. The Apple application, it's all there. How you navigate it's a little bit different. So it just might help some of our parents and students, if they're watching the tutorial, it might help them a little bit more if the tutorial is actually on that format and that's what you're viewing rather than the PC format. And that's it.
Thank you. Good feedback. Okay, anybody else? Okay, moving on from there, going on to our director's reports. Does anybody have any information that they would like to ask, share, etc., from any of that? Yes, Mr. Crumley.
Where are they? There's 4.
Yeah, well, the other ones are going to be uploaded tomorrow. Dr. Evans has seen that, and he'll follow up with regard to that. So the 4 that we received.
All right, no comment on that. I was just interested in transportation.
So, Ms. Jersey.
Not specifically on those specific ones, but I did have the question about the behavior flip. I don't know if we've gotten an answer.
Yes, so the question, I believe, Ms. Jersey, was, are we continuing with behavior flip? And I have a meeting scheduled tomorrow with Ms. Taylor, but the short answer is no. And we'll be looking at other, I'll get a briefing from her about where those, how those grant monies will be utilized. I don't know, maybe Dr. Oler Marks, you can advise me of behavior flip last year. How was that funded?
Sorry, I can't advise you. I think it was one of the school improvement grants, but I'm not entirely sure.
So if that were it, thank you. I'm sorry to put you on the spot, Linda. If that were the case, then those monies are still around. It wasn't a specific grant for that program. It was grant monies that can be used for programs like that. But I can get you more information after tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, I do have one thing. I am very excited to know that, we have potential for team workouts starting on the 21st, et cetera, et cetera. And that the sports season by our area has a format and a start date for us later in the school year for our teams to be able to do stuff. I just want to make sure, because we're being given the information of what the area has said, the Area 9 has said with regard to the ability for us to have it. But it is really the responsibility of the administration and the board to approve that moving forward based in the time of COVID. So do we have a plan yet from our coaches, from our athletic department, with regard to what that will look like to keep our students safe? So that we can start those things and make sure that, protocol is in place, similar to what our opening protocol plans were. Do they have those same protocols, blah, blah, blah?
Yes, so the short answer is yes, they have similar, somewhat modified protocols because it is athletics. However, there is not a requirement of creating a plan and the board acting on a plan and submitting the plan to a portal. It's primarily being, I guess, administered through athletic sections. So Section 9, Lori, you referenced this, moved the start date of winter athletics, or set the start date for winter athletics on November 30th.
Right.
And fall sports will be, I think, February and March, and then, or maybe March and April, and then spring athletics will be April and May, around there. However, teams may begin workouts on Monday, the 21st. So those are akin to off-season workouts as we've historically known them, provided there's social distancing and cleaning protocols established. I believe right now, Mr. Budenhagen is dialoguing with different coaches about their intentions for off-season workouts and making sure that we are physically able, in terms of plant and facility, to carry those out.
That's what I'm asking, because the board does have the opportunity to say, yeah, Section 9 may say, but
Sure.
this school district is not going to partake. But I'm sure that, Mr. Budenhagen is doing those things. It's just if that could be shared at some point with the board, because he
Sure.
alluded to that when he did his presentation to us. He had already alluded to that being there. So just to keep the board informed so that we're comfortable, because the buck does stop here. So
Sure. I will ask him to provide an update for the next meeting about what teams have commenced workouts. I would say, though, that if the board feels that those should not occur, or that we should not commit to the November 30th timeline for the commencement of winter sports, and obviously a lot can change between now and then. But if everything stays according to plan and infection rates stay down and we remain open for in-person instruction in athletics, if the board wanted to pull back on that, then I would need to hear from you to do that. And we would talk with Mr. Budenhagen about what that might look like.
I don't think that the board would pull back on anything if they know that, things are set in place.
Sure.
Because if you have 10 teams and you've got 10 coaches, are they all following the same protocol, becomes part of the issue. And that can be dialogue that can occur by Mr. Budenhagen saying, these are the things that we do in Monticello athletics to make this happen and keep our children safe. And it is expected and required by every coach to follow this procedure, so that we don't have a coach not knowing they didn't have to do that, or not understanding. Like, it needs to almost be in COVID time, almost like a mini training on anything that's in person. And we've provided some of that training to our staff in general, but sports is slightly different. So, when do you have to stay 12 feet? When don't you have to stay 12 feet? Like all of that information, just to make sure that there's clarity on it.
Sure.
So
I will bring that back to the board, or Mr. Budenhagen will in the form.
I'm going to ask around the board right now. I'm going to kind of put you on the spot. I don't think there's anybody who doesn't want this to move forward. We just want to make sure that the communique is there, I think.
Definitely communication,
Okay.
but definitely move forward.
That's more the communication angle of it, not to not move forward. So, Okay, anything else around that conversation, anybody? Okay, so moving on from there, today's students, tomorrow teachers. Information on that.
Yeah, I'm just bringing that to the board because I know that the district regularly renews that, and this is just an annual renewal. We are reducing the program by one student slot because there is a vacant student slot. The rates have increased for today's students, tomorrow's teachers. And while we generally believe in the program, with the reductions of aid and the uncertainties around after-school programming, we felt that we could reduce this by one slot and not affect any current students in the program. And what I am being told by today's students, tomorrow's teachers, is that they do have a virtual modules that they've developed. So traditionally, this was an after-school club activity. It will still be that, however, it will be virtual and not in person.
Okay, everybody knows what that program is? Okay, I saw Helen's hand go up, so that's what I thought. Okay, so basically what it is it's a high school student teacher. It's helping them to understand what the field is looking like. So it's supporting those in our district who are interested in going into the teaching profession, with the hopes that you get them energized to go into the teaching profession. They go to college, they get their teaching certification, and come back and teach in their home school district. That's the concept behind it.
At what grade do they start?
I want to say it's 10th.
No, well, there's a new middle school program, the Student Leadership Movement. So they start in like 8th grade, and that's really general. It's more around leadership and good choices, and then it becomes TSTT in 9th grade, and they have schedules every year about what they're to accomplish. Those include college visits. Those include teacher shadowing. They typically work summer school when summer school was in session. And if students complete the program and graduate high school and enroll in an education program in one of the partnering colleges or universities, they get anywhere from 50 to 75% of their tuition paid for through the program, if they're an education major and they're in a partnering college or university.
Any questions around that?
Is there an attendance aspect to it to meet the criteria for the program and such?
I don't believe it's a direct, I mean, they have to attend programs. I don't know that there's a number of times missed and you're exited from the program. However, there is a club advisor and there are regional program managers who supervise student attendance, and their students are expected to attend.
So there's somebody to get on them.
Yes.
Thumb drops.
I know that our regional person is Barry Grenolds, and he's a former teacher up at the high school. So he's very, very good at following through with regard to it. There is an attendance requirement. They have to attend certain amounts of things. At least they have it in the past, way back when they first brought it in.
Yeah,
So,
I'm sorry, Lori. There's particular modules and events they have to attend.
right.
But in terms of X number, I don't know.
But there's required things they have to, or they can't go to the college. They won't accept them. They won't pay the money. It's all part of really growing the profession. And in all honesty, knowing how hard it is for us to find qualified teachers, we need it. We need it. So, any other questions around it? Okay, great. Dr. Evans, capital project update.
Yes, we had an owners meeting yesterday morning with Clark Patterson Lee and LaChase. Things are moving along rather well. The soil issue that they encountered at the bus garage has been rectified. However, they have, in their excavation work, uncovered a tank that was buried and has since been filled in. However, they believe that tank was an old septic tank. It was not a fuel tank or used for any type of hazardous material. So right now they think they can just leave that without disturbing it. However, they'll make a more informed determination as they continue their excavation. They did experience a slight delay, primarily in fabrication of materials. And I think that's in the report that you received in your agenda. So when I first read it, I thought, well, we had a fire, and then I misread it and read it again. No, the fire was at the manufacturing plant, not at our site. So just to be clear on that, there was a fire at the manufacturing site, not at any of our places. At the high school, construction continues. There too, they had to do a little bit more work than what they previously anticipated in shoring up the exterior wall, and that's the wall that you see, and it's rather unsightly at the moment when one drives into the main campus of the high school and the middle school. Some of the masonry work there is a bit outmoded, I guess, and not really what our architects and our construction managers had envisioned when they started stripping stuff away. So they've presently put in some temporary wooden supports and scaffolding. However, that will later be replaced by more steel enforced supports and scaffolding as they work through that process. But again, that's just a little bit of a diversion, but nothing that's taken us off track. And then lastly, the design teams for Clark Patterson Lee are finalizing their designs on the tennis court proposal or work that's to be done. They have done site work in terms of surveying, and they're now they're taking those 4 different designs that they gave us, and now they're actually seeing what is physically possible and appropriate and not and stays within the confines of the monies that have been appropriated for it. So there'll be more to come on that at the next meeting relative to the tennis courts, which is the next phase in the project.
And thank you, Dr. Evans. Any questions around that? Okay, moving on. Yes, Mr. Groden.
We were determining, or was it already determined for the position of the 6 courts, the design?
No, the design has not been determined. We were given options and we sent them back to design and find out information based upon excavation, what could work, what wouldn't work, what would be the most cost effective. And that's where we're at. So that'll come back.
They're all in the same location. It's just a matter of how it would be, designed and.
Yeah. And all of that information was in the original design work of the proposals that they gave us. Nothing of that has changed. They just represented it to us and told us what the next step would be the last time they spoke with us. So, any other questions around that? Okay, moving forward, upcoming events. Everybody is aware of the upcoming events that are happening. Just a reminder, if you're going to the conference, we should probably just do a little chit chat before the end of October and determine so that we're not all sitting in the same session, because that would be a waste of taxpayers' money. So if we could do that, so I will set up a time maybe that we could, so those of us who are going, it's Stacy, Dr. Evans, Dr. Oler Marks, yes? Are you attending School Boards Association also? Mrs. Vela, you're also attending online? You're muted.
No, I told Janet that I'm gonna pass this year on the online thing.
Okay. And I know Mr. Groden, so maybe the 5 of us could sort of just hunker down after we take a look at what's being offered and figure out where we need to get our faces in so that we can go and split the wealth type thing. So we'll do that closer to the date, but just start taking a look at what's available. Community events, obviously there are things going on, but nothing that we're attaching. Ms. Montez, do we have anything with regard to public comment at this time?
No, there's nothing.
Thank you very much. Moving forward, superintendent's update and information, Dr. Evans?
Thank you, Ms. Oristano James. Just a few things before I get into our school opening this past week. We continue to make a number of personnel moves that are occurring because of vacancies that are created either through resignation by an individual or a leave request. So there are a number of personnel items tonight. Those positions are critical to our staffing needs and vacancies that we have, including some familiar names to the district, people coming out of retirement to step up, and we appreciate that. We talked before about athletics. Again, Section 9 determined that winter sports will begin no earlier than November 30th, with fall sports beginning in March of 2021 and spring sports beginning in May of 2021. They have allowed team workouts to begin next Monday, starting on September 21st, provided that there are safe distancing and other cleaning protocols and screening put in place. I will get more information from Mr. Budenhagen on what that might look like. Single Bite and local civic organizations, Monticello Rotary, Liberty Rotary, and Fallsburg Lion Club will once again begin coordinating family meal donations and deliveries. We've tentatively identified those to occur on Wednesdays, and I've been told that we currently have 11 Monticello area families in need of those, or at least who have responded to those. And Ms. Taylor will be coordinating with Single Bite and local organizations on those services. They may be done we might be using our facilities to help kind of stage that, but more to come on that. And we're so appreciative of Single Bite and the Rotary Club and Dr. Silver as well for spearheading those efforts. They're greatly needed in our community. Now to talk a little bit about our school opening. We had a memorable opening day for students on Monday the 14th. And just to reiterate and echo the gratitude that's been given to our staff, there are many on our staff, too many to thank and express appreciation for, but all of our staff in some way have greatly contributed to this reopening. And I really thank them for everything that they've done to get us to a point where we are. And I also appreciate the patience and diligence of our families and students in this new educational world that we live in. And while today there's still some things that need to be ironed out, today was better than what it was on Monday, and Monday was a lot better than what things were in May. So we will continue upon this starting tomorrow morning when students and staff return. But on Monday, we bring in a number of other grade levels. And I think this is a great credit to our planning committees and our administration, who had the foresight of saying, let's kind of stagger these grade levels as we reopen, as to not overload the system. So if one goes to our schools tomorrow morning, there will be fewer students reporting than who report on Monday morning as we begin to add grade levels to the mix. If parents want to know which grade levels start for in-person instruction beginning on Monday and then the weeks thereafter, if they go to their school's websites, there are very colorful and detailed calendars that Ms. Bonfante has put together to inform parents of when those grade levels start. So more grades on Monday the 21st, more grades on Tuesday the 29th. We're off on the 28th for Yom Kippur. And then our final wave, I believe, will be coming in for in-person instruction on October 5th. Those are students and families who have opted in for in-person instruction. Students who have remote instruction will continue on that remote instruction pathway. And as I mentioned before, we had hundreds of students and staff obviously return for in-person instruction on Monday. We are now required by the New York State Department of Health to daily report any incidences of suspected and/or confirmed cases of COVID-19 among our ranks to the state. Now, in some of these instances, these confirmed cases will be based on self-reporting information that the family shares with us. In other instances, that data will be arrived at through symptomatic individuals who come to school and we don't allow in because their temperature is too high or they're appearing to be symptomatic. So we have to report that data daily. Dr. Oler Marks and Ms. Leni Levinson are coordinating that through the buildings, and that was just kind of one more thing that was thrown at us. I believe Tuesday of last week, the governor and the Department of Health put this out there. I don't know yet if that dashboard is fully functional. It's been put up and taken down and put up and taken down, and we have new iterations of the data that we have to put in. I want to impress upon the community that that data that they see there is self-reported data to the best of our knowledge, and it may or may not completely align with other data that's being reflected on Department of Health websites that's being reported through other agencies. So in some instances, it may be duplications. In other instances, the Department of Health might show data that's not reflected in our data because they're not students. They're public community members who don't attend our schools. So it's not, there's not a lot of alignment there. However, I do want to assure the community and our staff that every time we receive a symptomatic individual, we take immediate steps to work with that family and the Department of Health on guidance on what we need to do. And it's very similar. I think I shared this with a board member yesterday. It's very similar to a fight in school, which requires basically administrators and office staff and security staff or nurses to kind of stop what they're doing and deal with this particular incident where we have a symptomatic individual. So again, I really appreciate our staff who are involved in that process, and they've learned an awful lot in a very short amount of time about how this works. The nurses have taken it upon themselves to kind of develop their own little manual about what to do and when. And even just today, this afternoon, we received an updated flow chart from Sullivan County Public Health on what to do, if then, and I'll be sharing that with the board probably tomorrow. But again, also thanking Sullivan County Public Health for their guidance in that effort. Now, to kind of now move into our opening day enrollment data, and then I'll take any questions that you have. I do want to share my screen on that. So every year, the district measures its opening day enrollment figures. And what we've seen over the past year or past 4 years is somewhat of a decline in student enrollment. So on opening day, Monday, the 14th, we had 2,817 students registered in our schools and expected to and enrolled in our schools on Monday. And that could have been either in-person instruction or remote instruction. The majority of them were for remote instruction. That is down slightly compared to, down by about 25 students compared to last year on opening day. And then down by a little more than 100 students when compared to opening day on 2017. We will continue to monitor this monthly. The big tell date is Beds Day, which is usually done in the first week of October. That's critical because the state uses that data to make a number of measurements and determinations on aid formulas, accountability determinations, and otherwise. I will share with the board and the public that of the 2,817 students who were enrolled on Monday, September 14th, approximately 45% of them were remote instruction only, meaning they opted in to cohort D. We had 11% of our students who were identified for cohort C, which is 4 days a week of remote instruction. And then approximately 43% of our students had enrolled in cohort A and cohort B, which is the hybrid model, though some of those students might have been all remote for this opening week, depending on the grade level that they're in. So a relatively even split between in-person instruction and remote only. But even, our in-person students, it's more of a hybrid model where they're only in at most 2 or 4 days a week, with Wednesdays being remote instruction only. So that is all I have. However, I would be happy to take any questions that the board has regarding my report.
So one of the things I do want to point out is the 2017-18, we had a bump after 9/11 that stayed with us, that would have left in 17-18 because the kids would have graduated. When we built our new middle school, we built it for the size of the amount of students we had at the time with room for growth. And within the first year we were in that building, we had over capacity in that building. And we had just built the building with room to spare on purpose. So although you see those numbers be substantially different, I want people to understand that bumps and ebbs and flows. We may have some students who are currently living here in our district because people are starting to move into this area, but have not unregistered yet in their former districts. So because maybe they're still remote, they're staying in their home districts till they get settled in or whatever. So there's a lot of things that could be affecting those numbers, especially when, when situations like a 9/11 happen or the COVID crisis happens. So those numbers could be very flexible. Would that be an appropriate version of that or vision of that, Dr. Evans?
Yeah, and I would say that yes, and this September in particular will be far more dynamic than September's past. I suspect there might be families out there yet who might think that schools are closed and there's, they don't need to register. They should. If they, if they're not doing home instruction, they need to register with the district if they're of school age.
And do we know at this point how many of our students, because they would not be in our count if they've now chosen to do home instruction? Home instruction is different than remote. Home means none of the teachers are doing plans for you. You create your curriculum that you send into the district for approval, and the district gives you an okay for you to homeschool your child. So I don't know if we have that data yet. I know that was something you were going to be working on, and when we discussed that yesterday, so I don't expect you to have it today. But we probably have a number of parents who chose to do those types of things, and a number of parents who are doing are doing like community pods and things like that. I've seen things on Facebook like that, and that would also bring our count down. That doesn't mean that those students will not return to us, but this is the right model for those families at this time. So any questions around that? Mr. Groden?
I'm looking forward to, after all the communication with the teachers and the community, that we see a bump up of students after Dr. Evans implements all these plans. I'm just going to see that we're going to increase as people want to come to Monticello because of what he does.
Thank you,
So-
Mr. Groden. No pressure, but thank you.
Thank-
If I may, I did receive today an email from a staff member. I do want to share it with the board because I think it's representative of what we're seeing around us. So this is from a staff member who lives in a neighboring district, and the staff member wants to enroll his or her child in our school as they can according to district policy. And I'll read it. I'll protect the identity. I was inquiring about information about possibly getting my daughter into our school district. She is currently in kindergarten in a neighboring district. Yesterday, I was able to see what instruction looks like for my home district, and when I saw how awful it was, I started to cry. My daughter has been in a school setting since she was 3 and was in UPK last year, so she knows what school is supposed to be. The lack of teaching in her school is concerning me, and since there is no in-person classes, she is miserable, and I am seeing her lose her love for learning. I was wondering if there are any K spots open and if there is a way I would be able to enroll her in our district and how much that would cost. It wouldn't cost her because according to district policy, staff members can enroll their kids in our district. Thank you for reading my email. I'm looking forward to hearing from you. I know of at least 4 staff members who have, contacted either Ms. Culligan or me to enroll their kids this year. There may be more that haven't come through our office, but I think, that shows the efforts of what we're trying to do here is being appreciated by our staff members too. So I just wanted to pass that along as a point of information.
And Dr. Evans, this format's not the best way for a board to have to meet either, but I'm sort of glad because I know from Courtney that we get substantially more people seeing our board meetings, where we used to have 10 or 12 people seeing our board meetings. We have close to 300 to 400 people watching our board meetings. And that's a huge increase, obviously. And it helps, that more people are seeing it. So for those of you who are out there and listening, again, I follow Facebook a lot, and I have seen comments very clearly as to the dedication of the teachers, administrators, and staff of this school district and what we have done. We are a high-needs school district. We are not a rich school district. And the work that is being done is, it's great that we have staff that feels, that we have faculty and staff that feel confident in bringing their children here. But the reality is, we offer a lot for a little rural school district, and that's what we are. And through this, everyone has really been amazing. So again, I repeat what I said at that opening day ceremony of the 1 day, 1 hour, 1 minute, 1 second, 1 breath at a time. That's conveyed to this faculty, staff, administration, and we thank you for the work that you've been doing. Because as a 37 years in the field of education, I can't even begin to think if I was still in a public school classroom in any shape, form, or manner, whether it be in an administrative or whatever. And we thank you for the work that you've been doing. Any other questions for Dr. Evans? So, Ms. Greco.
Just regarding the possibilities for enrollment, I have seen kind of anecdotally, and I've heard from people speaking about delaying their children's kindergarten attendance due to the situation, to just say like maybe they're kind of borderline, like they would have made the cutoff, the December cutoff, but they decided to go ahead and hold their child over in a preschool or school preparation program of any type. Do you envision that happening in this area as well? People maybe who delayed kindergarten, which could cause a bump in that kindergarten and thus subsequent years, of course.
Yeah, so I'm opening the, I believe the Excel data sheets were shared with the board, and what I noticed was that kindergarten this year, September of 2020, we currently have 176 students enrolled, or we did as of Monday. A year ago, there were 206 students. So right there, that's 30 fewer students enrolling in kindergarten this year compared to last year. So that could be, I don't know yet. I suppose we'll know more a year from now if that number comes significantly. But I would not be surprised if that were true.
Good point, Adriana. Thank you. Any other questions around that? Okay, so moving forward to the Assistant Superintendent for Business. Ms. Fell, your update?
Okay, so this evening you have the budget status school lunch profit and loss for June 2020. I'm also asking the board to approve the contract for the athletic trainer services with the potential of practices starting. We wanted to make sure we had that contract in place. We modified that contract so that if services are not provided for the full month, the payment is prorated for the month. We're asking the board to access some buses that we're trading in on their new ones and some books. There's the contract transportation extension with Rolling V. They transport our students to the Center for Discovery. And the student activity quarterly report is there from the high school, middle school for June 2020.
Any questions around any of those reports, Ms. Jersey?
On the student activity report, just a couple questions. What happens to the money that's listed there for the class of 2019?
The policy is after 2 years, it has to go to an organization that benefits all the students in the school. So usually that's your student government. I noticed it says 2019 and I'm not really involved in the student activity. Chris does all of that, but I'll get more details on that and make sure it's just the class of 2019 or if it's multiple classes, because I didn't see any of the other classes listed.
Well, that was my next question, because I see 6th grade and 7th grade. Does that money move with them or it stays with the grade? How does that work?
I think it moves with the class. So it's like last year, 6th grade. So the report for the first quarter, that would be the beginning balance for the 7th grade. But let me double check with Chris and just make sure that that report is truly representing accurately all of the individual classes. Because I had that question too, sorry.
Yeah, the class funds definitely move. So if the students were in 6th grade last year, it'll show 7th grade. I think that 2019 is a number of years in there, which is why that number is so high. Because I think the process has been that it's left there for new organizations to form or for when funding is needed for things like that, and then they pull from there. I think that's what they've traditionally done. from past experience. Any other questions for Mrs. Fowler around that? Everyone saw the budget status?
I do
and all
have
that?
one
So
late
Dr.
addition, if I may. I don't mean to step on Ms. Fowler's report. However, there was a late add to the agenda this afternoon, a lease agreement with a local property owner. We need a place to park our buses during our construction process. And we currently have been parking them on one of the lots behind the middle school and other places around the district as we can find them. This, and I think we shared this with the board at the last meeting, would be a place off-site to park our buses for as long as we need to while the new transportation center is being constructed. So that's item T14 that was just authorized by the owner of the property, or he reached an agreement with our attorneys yesterday. So we received that earlier today. The reason why we're bringing it forward so quickly is because it does need to go to the state education department for their approval before it is actually executed. So what the board would be acting on tonight is approving that agreement, which again, Ms. Fala worked with our attorneys to negotiate with the private owner, and so that we could move our buses there, and park them there. So that's item T14. I'm sorry, Ms. Fala.
I forgot about it. I should have mentioned it. Sorry.
But that came through earlier today.
Yeah, and we did receive it in the email that Janet sent us, but Janet, that would need to be uploaded into the agenda at this particular juncture. I believe
No,
that's what.
It's
No,
on the agenda. It just
it's on
hasn't
the
been.
agenda
Yeah,
for
it's on
the,
agenda.
but the contract is public. So it would have to, so it has to be uploaded so that the public can see the contract as well. So moving on from there, thank you very much, Mrs. Thela. Moving on to Dr. Ola Marks for your report.
Hi, yeah, just tonight, all I have is the EPIC services agreement for this year. Last year, as you know, we've been working with EPIC for many years. And the family engagement manager is very entrenched within our district. She was volunteering earlier with kindergarten drop off earlier this week. So we looked at how we can, we shifted her work last year to really focus on early childhood, bridging the gap with preschool and kindergarten to increase engagement. And she was based in Tiny Town. And as we do not have Tiny Town in district this year because of circumstances surrounding COVID, we looked at ways that we could help to maximize her impact within the district and how we can integrate more fully her work with the initiatives within the district. So it wasn't a separate kind of silo. So there is a reduction in the total number of hours within the district that she'll be working based on the circumstances. But we have more opportunities with our Title III English as New Language parents that we're offering parenting workshops in that area.
Terrific. Mrs. Sorensen does a wonderful job for us. And, EPIC, you said all I have is EPIC, but EPIC is an incredible program. It's more than that's all you've got. It's a huge program, and what's offered for our kids and the support for our faculties and our faculty and our families. That's what the connection is, and it's beautifully done. So if Mrs.
Yeah, and
Sorensen,
Jane is just an incredible resource for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Any questions around that EPIC program and what's going to happen this year? And of course, if we can get back those other programs down the road financially, if we can swing that, that would be great. Mr. Groden?
I'm very much looking forward to the grabbing and helping our neediest readers and working with EPIC and working with our reconfiguration that we can catch kids early and help them and empower them so that we don't have that problem in middle school and high school. And I want to tell the public, trust us. We're working so hard to get it so that our kids are revved up and reading really well.
So thank you, Mr. Groden. Any other questions around that? Okay, moving on, Mr. Crumley.
I move that we take action items T1 through T14 as a group.
Second, Mr. Groden, any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? So ordered. Mr. Crumley.
I move that we accept action items T1 through T14 as a group.
Motion made by Mr. Crumley, seconded by Mr. Groden. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? So ordered. Moving on from there, correspondence. Any additional information around any of this stuff as far, or any questions around the two articles that were shared with us? So I know that the districts are helping with regard to the lack of internet access. I do know for a fact that Senator Metzger is all over this, as is Assemblywoman Gunther, as is Congressman Delgado. It's on the front of their agenda on everything they do. So I know they're working closely with Dr. Evans. I know they're working with Dr. DeFore, and that everyone is working to try and make sure that we have access for all of our students where needed. And again, the TRAP team, that article is very, very nice for our TRAP team, and to see the stuff that they're doing. Moving on from there, questions and comments from the public. Ms. Montez, anything?
Nothing.
Thank you very much. With that said, moving around, anyone would like to make a motion to adjourn this meeting? Made by Ms. Jersey. Her hand was right up. Seconded by Ms. Greco. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? So ordered. For those who celebrate, we wish a happy and a healthy Jewish New Year's, L'Shana Tova, and stay safe through everything that we're doing, most importantly, the healthy part of that for everybody. So with that said, good night all, and again, always with Monty Pride. We appreciate you being here. Have a good night.
Good
Good night,
night.
everyone.